don't know why you couldn't call my US-based number. But, Zach, if you text me your, the 808 number, if you text me your phone number. Oh, here it is. He's calling in now, folks. All right, you there, Zach?
I am. Thanks for taking the call.
Yes, thanks for coming on, man. You know, I in all honesty, I can tell you, man, I have a lot of mad respect for you throughout the years you've been doing this, and you know, through all the things that maybe people have said, I have said about you, and all that kind of stuff, man. I just want to kind of clear the air. I'm at a stage in my life now where, like, again, you know, you do great work. You're a content creator. I have a lot of respect for that. I think at the end of the day, as I've been saying, I'm going to continue to do me, you do you. But I think if we can just kind of come to a resolution, I know the decoding world is kind of really wanting this, because I think a lot of people want people to come together, and somebody has set up something about teammates and strength in numbers. So anyway, I just wanted to say I'm sorry if I ever insulted you or anything like that, because, you know, again, at the end of the day, we all think we're right. So that kind of comes down to that.
Yeah, it's okay. No problem. And since now I understand that you're not Joe Pesci's nephew, I was under the impression that was true.
No.
But I will record straight and say that I was mistaken on you being Joe Pesci's nephew. So apologies for that.
Cool.
But my question is, the thing that I don't understand, because the last time I watched one of your videos before tonight, I heard you blatantly say, you know, the Jesuits aren't behind these things as some people are claiming. This is just the way the world works. There's too many moving parts.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Logan, do you think that there's a group of men waging an agenda for their own power and benefit and control against other men or people?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. And so here's what I need to understand. Gavin Newsom, who's Jesuit educated, many of the faces of the COVID pandemic are Jesuits, from Trump to Biden to Cuomo to Klaus Schwab to Gavin Newsom, etc. Or if they're not Jesuits themselves, they have these Jesuit links, like Bill Gates is married to Melinda Gates, who's from a Jesuit family, and she just happens to have the same birthday as the Jesuits. By the way, their establishment is August 15th, 1534, the 16th century. 16 is a real big number with them. But the Jesuits are all around, and there's a number that they've just used and abused throughout this pandemic as they've locked down places and read reports, and they've really used this number 56 so much. Like when Gavin Newsom locked down California, he said, in 8 weeks, 56% of California will have COVID, so I'm locking down the state. And of course, 8 weeks is 56 days. And what I learned is the most pure cipher from Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages, the alphabetical rules numerology. Coronavirus is 56. COVID vaccines 56. Anthony Fauci's 56. So many things connected to COVID equal 56, including toilet paper.
Bill Gates.
Like how they told us the toilet paper was going to sell out at the beginning of the pandemic. And the list goes on. When you run the alphabetic order in reverse, Gavin Newsom's name is also 56. And here, so just I'd like you to respond to that. Why is Gavin Newsom and so many world leaders who are from this Jesuit fraternity using this number 56 when they talk about COVID?
Same reason why lights, camera, action equals 56. Same reason why barium is the 56th element, which has an atomic weight of 137, which is the 33rd prime number.
How does barium fit in? Like, where's barium?
Barium is, all the elements are bridges. So when you link the numbers to these elements, they're bridges to connect to something else, which gives you more insight and clues. But my research is discovering that the 56, of course, which reduces to the number 11, which is the number of magic and electricity. But the number 56 is tied to lights, camera, action, which means that we're living inside of a simulation. So they're tying into this 56, which is just tying into this simulation that we're living in, which is why they operate simulations.
Okay. So let's just say that we're living in a simulation. Wouldn't you say then the Jesuits are trying to influence the outcome of the simulation?
Everybody's influencing the outcome, including you and I.
Well, I would agree that to an extent. But there's a certain organization that holds more knowledge, maybe more understanding of the way the simulation works, and
Of
they're
course.
using their understanding to benefit them.
Well, I just think I agree, but I also think there's fractals to this. So yes, there are people at the top of the pyramid that have more knowledge than others. But when you get at the top of the pyramid, it doesn't exclude you from being used by the code. You just become more aware of it.
Okay. This entity that is doing this, it's not for the betterment of you and I. And it's not for the betterment of most people living. So would you not agree that people who are aware of what they're doing should be working to stop it and reverse it?
Of course. That's called having people having jobs. What do you think your job is? Why do you think you love doing what you do? Why are you passionate about decoding and exposing these organizations? Why do you do it?
Well, again, for me, it's because when 9/11 happened, I knew that we were blatantly being lied to, and everyone fell for the lie, and we were being taken in a very bad direction. And
yep, and here you are.
Huh?
And here you are.
Right. So Logan, I mean, here's what I took offense to is, the last time I tuned into you was probably a year ago when I heard you making your statement that it's not the Jesuits, and it's just the way essentially the matrix or the simulation works, and there's too many moving parts. And I'm thinking, but the Jesuits are having a major negative influence, and they are responsible for this agenda that's going on right now. Now, would you disagree with that it's not the Jesuits who are responsible for the pandemic?
I'm not going to acknowledge what I don't know about. I just know that if you're going off of your numbers and what your research is alluding to, and I go watch your channel and your decodes, I'm going to come to the resolutions that you've come to, which these organizations are responsible. But at the same time, I'd also have you look at like what organizations are doing good for the world. So there's always a constant antagonist, protagonist, constantly going on in this world. And you're the protagonist, right? Would you consider yourself an antagonist? Are you a superhero or are you a villain? Which one is it? Which one do you work for? Huh?
It depends on who you ask.
Well, of course it does. But I'm asking you, are you a superhero or are you a villain?
Well, I don't think of myself as a superhero, but I definitely don't think of myself as a villain. I think of myself working on behalf of
the good guys,
justice for humanity,
yeah,
to stop what I see evil.
There you go. That's you're doing your job.
Logan, I have to ask you something else, because the last time I talked to you, you were making this statement that the Jesuits aren't behind Tom Brady's career in the NFL. Now, I want to make a point to you.
Okay.
I went down to Louisiana 2 years ago. 2 years ago today, I was in Louisiana. I was educating at Baton Rouge at the LSU campus about all of the people who died clearly in connection to Joe Burrow and LSU's championship in the Battle of the Tigers. And it's funny now that he's in the Super Bowl, and the exact same pattern has played out with a number of deaths clearly connected to Cincinnati and the Bengals. But here's the thing about the Jesuits. Let's just take the numbers out of it. The day that Joe Burrow transferred to LSU from Ohio State was May 20th, 2018. And on that exact same day, May 20th, 2018, Billy Cannon died. Now, that's interesting because Billy Cannon was the only player to ever win the Heisman for LSU, which Joe Burrow would go on to become the second player ever to do it. But Billy Cannon also beat Clemson in the championship in LSU, exactly what Joe Burrow did. And now Joe Burrow is in the Super Bowl, and his path to the Super Bowl through the playoffs was defeating the Raiders, the Titans, the Chiefs, and he will now face the Rams. And Billy Cannon was drafted number 1 overall, like Joe Burrow, by the Rams. He played for the Raiders, the Titans, and the Chiefs. However, in his time, they were the Houston Oilers who became the Titans. Not to mention his greatest career game, if you look up Billy Cannon's best ever game, it was December 10th, exactly 35 years to the day of Joe Burrow's birthday. And it was against the Titans of the time, which were in New York. And, one of the stories that broke right before Joe Burrow beat the Titans this year in the divisional round was that a former Bengal, who also played at Notre Dame like Joe Montana, who beat the Bengals 2 times, but Browner died, and his life ended in Nashville, Tennessee, and the media referred to him as a Titan right before Joe Burrow went into Nashville and defeated the Titans. And also before that game, Regina King, her son was announced suicided right before the game. Keep in mind, Regina means queen, and Cincinnati's the Queen City. But that's a coincidental story. And then the next week before the conference championship, they announced the death of Howard Hessman right before the game. And Howard Hessman was known for the radio show where he was a disc jockey in Cincinnati. And his show ended in '82, the exact year that Joe Montana beat the Bengals in Super Bowl 16. And there's this very big connection between Joe Burrow and Joe Montana. And I mean, it's a lot to get into. But again, all along the way, if you pay attention to the numbers that are encoded in these stories, there's 54 coded into every single one. And the name Joe Montana equals 54. And Super Bowl 54 was the Joe Montana Bowl between the Chiefs and 49ers. And it was exactly 54 days after Joe Burrow's birthday, who was drafted in the NFL right after that Super Bowl. And now in his 54th NFL season, he now has the chance to mirror what Joe Montana and Joe Namath did. But again, for you to a year ago say that the Jesuits don't have anything to do with this, again, what are the and here's the other thing too. Billy Cannon died in St. Francisville, a Catholic town. St. Francisville. Pope Francis in Gematria equals 59. This year's Super Bowl is on the 59th day of his age. Billy Cannon equals 59, as does LSU Tigers, and he won the Heisman in 59. To me, if you look at all of this, and again, Logan, I'm taking Manly P. Hall's word for it, one of the most famous occultists, for what cipher to use to decipher all of this. And I know that you think Chaldean's more important. Chaldean is important, don't get me wrong. And by the way, Logan, you said that Derek's website, if it went down what we do, just so you know, on my website, the exact same calculator's there, and you can also download the free app for any cell phone platform.
Oh, cool.
So you have an offline calculator with all those ciphers. But, Logan, do you really think the Jesuits don't have anything to do with this?
I never said that the Jesuits don't have anything to do with this. What I did say is the Jesuits are being used. And I will continue to say that. So I'm not saying they're not acting out their parts and they're doing all these kinds of things. I broke down and decoded the astral world, and I showed people that it wasn't man doing that. Sure, man's acting out everything, but mankind is being used. And of course, were there deaths there? I don't know. Were they fabricated in the news tabloids? I don't know. I wasn't there. But when you calculate the astrology into that, if you bring astrology, which I don't think you use astrology, but if you bring astrology into astral world, you clearly could see that it was an 11-5 ritual, which is tied to Aquarius and Leo. And we're in the sign of Aquarius, ruling over by Leo, which is the sun. I'm sorry?
It had a lot to do with Scorpio, didn't it? The Astro World tragedy?
It had a lot to do with a ton of stuff. That's why I'm saying is as when you continue to add on and tack on to these decodes and add another layer and another layer and another layer, it just seems very, very like ludicrous to think that man could get all of this right. That's my conclusions.
Again, so I want to make a point. The Astro World tragedy happened on the 25-year anniversary of Tupac's Machiavelli album being released, which depicted him as Jesus on the cross.
Okay.
And the day it was released, November 5th, the same day as the Astroworld concert, November 5th is associated with the Jesuit order. That's Guy Fawkes Day.
Okay.
And that's the day leaving 56 days left in the year, and Society of Jesus equals 56.
Right.
And again, it's go to their 56 number all over their pandemic.
Uh-huh.
Don't forget the event. So again, they named the coronavirus simulation Event 201.
Uh-huh.
And initially, the first case of COVID in the world was 56 days from that simulation. And it was put on by a Jesuit, Klaus Schwab. And remember, 201 is clearly an important number to the Jesuit history. It goes beyond just letters and numbers and words. Their history is that they were saved by Catherine the Great, who preserved the order with 201 Jesuits. The first Jesuit pope is Pope Francis, the first to live in Suite 201 at the Vatican. His name is Pope Francis. The Jesuits are from Paris, France. Mm-hmm. The last French pope was the 201st pope. In Gematria, his name, Ore Mario Bergoglio, was 201, as is the founder of the Jesuits, Ignatius of Loyola, 201, as is the Jesuit Order 201. We're living in the first ever Ignatian year, which began on May 20th, the day in history that Ignatius of Loyola was shot with a cannonball, the same day Billy Cannon died, the same day Family Guy put out their joke cartoon about Dick Cheney shooting Antonin Scalia in the face with a gun. And when Ignatius Loyola was shot by a cannonball, for people who don't know, he wasn't actually shot by a cannonball. He was shot by a double-loaded musket, which is terminology for a cannonball. But from that cartoon's release to his death, it's all perfectly synced ritual that was encoded into the cartoon. And for all of these things to trace back to a Jesuit date of great significance, doesn't that scream that the Jesuits are behind the planning of these rituals?
Like I said, I'm not denying the fact that these people act out certain things in this reality, but I will just completely and quietly go back to my original thought process and what my research is leading me to, Zach, and that is mankind is being used. So you can pinpoint it on anybody you want. You can say it's this society and that, and you know as well as I do, man, you can match any word to any number. And it's not just the 56. I mean, there's a lot of other numbers. I mean, what about the 33? What can we say about the 33? What does the 33 really mean esoterically? Well, it can be linked to so many things. The G in the Masonic compass is the capital G in the Francis Bacon cipher, which pretty much nobody talks about. And that's the 33.
Chapter on my first book, Letters and Numbers, the G spot.
Perfect. Yeah, the G spot. But it's not just the 33. It's also linked to the number 7 because G is the 7th letter. Where do we go from there? Where's the 7 linked to the 33? How do you tie the two together? What is the number 33? What does it really mean? You know, what does the number 47 really mean? You got it on a license plate in back of you in your chair. I see it there sometimes when I tune in. I watch some of your stuff. I'm not subscribed to any of your stuff, but when I do tune in, I pay attention. I listen. You're great at what you do, my friend. I give you all credit in the world. You just rambled off some stuff that was like, you got to obviously been doing this a long time. But again, the difference between you and I is that you will conclude that the Jesuits are behind that kind of stuff, but they're being used to operate the machinations of this world. They're doing their job essentially.
Okay, let's try it this way. I need to understand. So are you essentially saying that if the Jesuits weren't doing this greater force in this world would be controlling some other man or a group of men to essentially achieve the same thing that's happening
correct.
right now?
That's correct.
Okay, I'm not opposed to that theory because it's evil what they're doing. And again, you know, the Jesuits, another big number with them, 72. There's the 72 demons of the Goetia, and there's the 72 names of God in Kabbalah. So, but okay, should we still not work as human beings who are aware of this to expose this knowledge and who is truly behind the agenda right now? Because it is the Jesuits.
You're doing it.
And it's so obvious.
You're doing your job, Zach. So yeah, of course you should continue to do it. If you feel in your gut, if you feel in your heart that this is the right path for you, then by all means, don't let me stop you.
Logan, whose calendar are we on right now?
Many calendars. Depends on what nation you live in, what ethnic background.
That the majority of the world is using.
Gregorian.
And who is that credited to?
It's all tied to the Catholic Church.
From the 16th century, just like the Jesuits. And when was English standardized as a 26-letter alphabet?
Probably right around the same time.
It was in the 16th century. And what's the oldest known script of English? Who's that credited to?
You're getting into stuff that's probably beyond my scope of education. So go ahead, tell us all.
If you look it up, you'll find it's a Catholic monk Burford from about the year 1000 AD. So it was about 600 years later that because the original script's a little bit different. It had ampersand and a few other things in there. It had some glyphs along with the Latin letters. But the point is, in the 16th century, it's very obvious that a plan went into motion. And shortly after all that, is at about the same time this nation's being established. You know, the Americas are being transformed from who lives there, from, you know, the indigenous people to a lot more Europeans. Again, it's obvious that a major plan went into motion.
Of course, there's always plans going on. I showed in my Corona Decoded that the simulation in December of 2019 or 2018, from that day until the first COVID case in the state of Washington where you're at, was 94 days. 94 is linked to the element. This is where the periodic table comes in. 94 is plutonium. What is plutonium? It's Shiva, the destroyer. And I had postulated perhaps the simulation that they just did in Jerusalem may end up becoming into effect this coming year, which is going to link to plutonium. So you can link it to the Jesuits, of course, but I can link it to plutonium. And now we have something else that's linked beyond the Jesuits. And so how are you to describe that? How are you to describe that if I go into a different layer?
Okay. So the plutonium connection. You know what? Please go on. Before I say any more, just can you explain more to me how the plutonium thing is relevant to COVID? Because I have a lot to say about 94, but I want to hear what your point first.
Well, of course, plutonium is linked to, we get into the Hinduism and Shiva the Destroyer, and Shiva the Destroyer, its job as a deity is to wipe the board clean. And you're going to get into, right now, we're in 2022 minus 1776. The birth of this nation is 245 years, and plutonium has an atomic weight of 245. And what's coming around in just a little bit? Pluto's return for the United States of America. So what is that telling us? Astrology now has its say and its hand in all of this, which is beyond the scope of man. Man didn't create the planets. You can see them with a telescope. So now you have astrology that you add into this, which I know you don't really use in your, I don't think you do. But when you add astrology into this, then you go into another branch of the metaphysics.
Well, for the record, I've always talked about astrology. I don't know
as well
as gematria. I've always talked about the periodic table too. I mean, those are things I've educated about from the beginning.
Awesome.
But here's the thing about 94. Bill Gates is clearly a big face in what's going on with COVID. Now, on his 94th day of his age, he declared a decade of vaccines, and he did it in Davos, Switzerland. And in gematria, Davos, Switzerland equals 94, like Seattle, Washington does. And by the way, the Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl in the 94th NFL season. That was also Super Bowl 48, and Seahawks is 48. Russell Wilson's grandpa died at age 94 shortly after. But 94 was a big year for Bill Gates. He was married on January 1st, 94. His mother died that year in 94.
Yep.
It was the year he became a celebrity. Who was more famous in Seattle at the start of 94 than Bill Gates was Kurt Cobain, who died 94 days after Bill and Melinda Gates' birthday. And again, Melinda Gates comes from a family of Jesuits and has the same birthday as the Jesuits, August 15th.
Yeah, 94 means death, bro. Whenever you see 94, it's tied to Shiva, plutonium, and the Trinity test in the desert. You know, it's tied to plutonium. So plutonium is a big deal. So that's why I'm saying is you can link it to the 56 and these big numbers that lead to Jesuit numbers that you're finding, but then you can link them to 94 and plutonium and the element plutonium and the number 244 and 245, and then you go off on that branch, and now they would have to get that right. So it's mankind trying to get all these layers right and sync up. And it's like, when would you ever get anything done trying to plan and construct these kind of things that are going on? Like, I got to go in this town. I got to put it in the news tabloids. I got to make sure they get it right and the mainstream gets it right. And there's just too many moving parts, in my opinion, for mankind to be coding this at this level. Sure, you can become conscious of the code, but at that, when do you draw the line?
When you write out coronavirus pandemic, it equals 94. When you write out Roman Catholic Church, it equals 94.
There you go. So there you go, man. So you have...
Through this understanding, we can point to who is behind the agenda, because it's not just the numbers.
Sure.
It's going, okay, the language and the calendar are clearly synced up. Well, that could only point back to Rome. Here, the agents who are doing this are all connected to the Jesuit fraternity that serves the Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church is about control. That's what they've always been about. That's why people tried to flee Europe. That's the root basis of this nation. It all started with the Protestant Reformation that was trying to escape the tyranny of the Catholic Church. They had to suppress the Jesuits because the Jesuits were having too much influence in politics and policies. You see that all the exact same things are happening today that have a historical precedent. So,
yeah, but I'm finding.
If we're trying to solve who's behind the pandemic, I'm saying, look, it's obvious that it's the Jesuits. What are you trying to say? That it's the periodic table? I mean,
if you go beyond the English language and you start to study the etymology of language and words and where the letters came from, obviously, because you're a researcher, you're going to go back to ancient Phoenicia times and Aramaic and into the older languages, and you study the language where our alphabet came from, and it's going to lead you to ancient Egypt. Well, my research, Zach, has the same outcomes of the patterns that you're finding with your 56 and 94 and the connections. They're all linking to the hieroglyphs and ancient Egypt and the pyramids and sacred geometry. So what does that tell you? How are you to wrap your mind around that? Like, okay, so now ancient, it's just a regurgitation. So I'm not saying that these organizations are not doing these acts. That is your mainstream. That is what you are here to do. I encourage you to keep, like I said, I'm turning a new, I'm here to lift you up. Like if people want to learn about your kind of ways of decoding, then I encourage people to go follow what you got to do. But at the end of the day, we can sit here and hash it out a million different ways. And I will say a million different times the same conclusion. Mankind is being used. And I stand by that. And it doesn't mean that I have to be right in your world or the right in your decoders, all the people that follow you. You have a big following, right? But I'm here to say, like, how do we just say, okay, let's just agree to disagree and be bigger people here, set our egos aside, and you just continue to do what you got to do and what you're really good at. And I respect what you do because you're a content creator. Most people are consumers. They're not designed to be a content creator.
The agenda that is taking place in this world right now?
Huh?
Are you interested in stopping the agenda that is taking place?
The agenda is going to be stopped no matter what. If you die tomorrow, my friend, the agenda will collapse because it runs in cycles. Everything is cyclical in this reality. When a baby is born, it goes through the embryo and it goes from a woman being pregnant and then she pops the baby out. It's cyclical.
Do you disagree with the statement that all it takes for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing?
Everything's cyclical. So if everybody just stopped watching the evil, if everybody just stopped paying attention to politics, what would happen to it? It wouldn't be able to survive because it needs energy.
Until they understand the reason why to stop. They have to be educated on why.
Well, then like I'm saying, is everybody's got a job to do. So again, I go back to, if you feel like your job in your heart is to continue to put these people out in the limelight and expose them and what you've been doing, then I just encourage you to keep doing that. Because if it makes you happy, at the end of the day, I want you to be happy, to be honest, because I try to help people and I encourage people. I'm like, if it makes you happy when you wake up every day, if you're doing something that makes you happy, keep freaking doing that, because when you're happy, everybody else around you is going to be happy. When you're a miserable bastard, everybody's going to be miserable around you. So you don't want to be doing something that you're miserable about. And there's one thing that I do is I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. You're not right in my eyes, not on every level, but it's not a matter of what I believe, dude. It's what you believe, not me. I have nothing to say in your life. I don't live in your shoes. I'm just me. And that's it. It's as simple as that.
So essentially is what you're saying is like, we might as well just, we might as well just let, evil take its place because it's going to happen no matter what.
That's not what I'm saying. I just said that if you feel in your heart that you need to go and expose these organizations, if you really feel that makes you happy and it's your job, if your intuition, if the voice in your head's telling you to go do that, then that's what you should go do. Why would I want to stop you from that? So no, I'm not saying people. That's why I said people that go protest. Why would I tell you, well, you're an idiot for protest? I would never do it. It's not my cup of tea, but some people like to go out and protest. Some people like to get involved in politics. Some people like to go and bet on sports. Some people like to go to movies every week. Some people like to hump somebody every day, a different person. That's not my life. Sure. You know what I'm saying? Like
okay. Have you been vaccinated?
No, I have not.
And why not?
Because I don't believe in it.
What if it gets to the point, because we don't stop the agenda, where you have no choice?
I'll face those consequences when they come.
They could come.
They could.
Why is that your approach? Why isn't it, you know what, I don't want that day to come, and I see who's pushing this agenda forward right now, and maybe if we stop them, some other entity will rise up.
Do you know how many people right now on the world stage are pushing against that right now, just including yourself? By me not taking it is enough for me to make a statement that I don't believe in it. I have posted video upon video upon video of that exact topic. The timelines, the whole agenda, I have exposed it just like you have. So I'm doing my job, my friend. I'm pushing back. I'm just not pushing in the same mannerism as you.
There's a root to this, and there is a group of people that are pushing this forward, and it could go a lot further over time. I mean, the reality is because this group has not been, I mean, before you and I were on this earth, people were warning about the Jesuits and their evil and their, bloodthirst for control and power.
Uh-huh.
And because this group has not been stopped, their power has been able to grow and their influence has been able to grow. And we're now at this part where, I mean, they can pull off an agenda like what we're living out, which you pretty much can't escape on this earth. It's pretty much everywhere.
Yep.
for right now, you and I are able to avoid getting a vaccine, and hopefully it stays that way. But these people are going to push this agenda further and further, and it might come to a little break here in the year of the tiger. But at some point in the not too distant future, like how they have their little SPARS simulation for 2025, they intend to go further with this. And if they're not stopped, we probably will face the day that we don't have to right now, unless they are exposed and stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And see, something I don't understand that you say at the beginning of your things is, these are my truths.
Mm-hmm.
I understand my opinions, but there's no such thing as my truths, Logan. I think you know that. There's no personal truths. There's the truth. And I mean, the truth is the truth, whether people believe it or not. And it's not that anyone can know what's all true, but I mean, there's no such thing as my truths. You say that.
In my world, there is, but again, it's just, I mean, are you just saying that to be right? Are you just stating your opinion? Because it's just going to come down to an opinion. Of course it's your opinion. Of course it's your opinion. What are you talking about?
Okay, there's not universal laws that are absolute.
If you say so. If you say so. I don't think you can really fathom how the machinations of this reality works yet. That's why I'm letting you talk. I mean, obviously you've been doing the majority of talking, but go ahead.
What is it for you that's not a truth for everybody else in this earth?
What's what?
What is a personal truth for Logan that's not true for anyone else in this earth?
I'm Logan and I'm 49 years old and I'm going to quit and I have all these machinations around me and da-da-da-da-da. I mean, I could go into great detail about my code and my life and my numbers and my life path and my astrology and my planetary positions. And I'm a snowflake. I'm a snowflake, bro.
We all have our own qualities.
Huh?
We all have our own qualities. But
right.
I mean, there's fundamental truths that are true for all of us. If you and I don't drink anything for a month, we're both going to die. I mean, that's a commonality between the two of us.
Right.
That's a truth. I think you're confusing certain things, Logan. I mean, you consider yourself a philosopher. Later, I'd like you to think about if there's such a thing as a personal truth, or if truth is something that's universal for all of us.
Well, it's very possible that we're creating our own fractals, Zach. And, I mean, there is that power of intention that a lot of people believe in, and you have to adopt that as your belief in order for it to start working in your life. I don't know. But if you study personal development, a lot of entrepreneurs are going to tell you that you need to start talking in a certain neurolinguistics, and you need to do this and you need to do that. And maybe that's just influencing you to do that. And maybe the little voice in your head's urging you to go do that. And that's why you're there at that seat, at that seminar. And once you start following those people, you start behaving in those mannerisms because you adopted those beliefs that they're telling you to believe in. So if everybody believed in everything that you're putting out on the world stage, what do you think is going to happen to this world? I don't know, because not everybody's ever going to believe in everything that you say. But you see, there's always going to be fractals.
I don't want people to believe in what I'm saying. I never use that word.
Well, whatever word you want to use, I'm just using things that people can relate to. We can break it down and dissect it any way we want. But in the end, Zach, there's going to be somebody that is farther in the trenches than you are, and they're going to say that you're crazy for using this stupid gematria stuff. And you see it all the time. You see people bashing your work and saying you're dumb and you're a shill and you're stupid and that gematria stuff is nonsense, hocus pocus.
Based in ignorance. I mean,
right, I know, but their truth is their truth in their life. They believe that you're hocus pocus, and they're right. Exactly. My point is that they think they're right, and you think you're right. And who's right? Well, if you understand the machinations of this world, both of you are right. And see, if you just get along with that and be like, okay, you just do you. I don't care what you think. See, if you give that person energy, they've won. So if you can just be an observer and be like, okay, I'll just Zach and do Zach. Doesn't affect my life. If you want to go do your job, great. Like I said, I encourage you. Matter of fact, from this point forward, like I said, I'm turning a new leaf, man. I have a new solar return. I have a different outlook on life. I'll be promoting you more and more. Like, hey, go follow Zach's channel. I have no bad blood, no ill will towards you, dude. You're a content creator. I respect you. I leave it at that. But at the very end of the day, you're asking me questions. I've answered them very, very crystal clear, and we still can't come to a resolution on what we want to believe. I just think we just need to agree to disagree. You continue to do what you want to do. I'd love to be able to, throw things off of you you, and you can see it because I'm saying, like, what is the 94? Did you know it was linked to plutonium? Did you know the United States is coming up on a Pluto return and plutonium? Why is it tied to the nuclear test? What does the nuclear mean? Nuclear, new board. What does all that kind of stuff mean? When you start to incorporate these layers into everything that you've done and incorporated, which is why many people are like, why can't you guys come together? And yeah, if we join together, my God, it would just explode, right? But I don't, like I said, at the end of the day, are you willing to just let go of the division?
I do, Logan, I agree. And that's right. We need to work together. But your thing about plutonium, see, I think it's actually a brilliant point. I want to look into more, and I want to point out something today that happened in the news. Two of the big news stories in the U.S. today was that U.S. intelligence says that Vladimir Putin is planning a false flag for a Ukraine invasion. And you have another story today that supposedly the U.S. military essentially assassinated an ISIS leader. And, you know, some of the news media posted a picture of Biden and Putin from December 7th kind of snickering together along with the story, almost like it's a mocking. But here's the thing. If you look at what day Putin's birthday is, October 7th, it's the day we invaded Afghanistan after 9/11, which many people would contend was a false flag. And the thing is, from Putin's birthday to today's story was 119 days later. 119, a lot like how the majority of the world writes the date September 11th, 11/9. Not to mention it's all biblical. Genesis 11:9 is where the story of the Tower of Babel ends, the story that divides the people of the world and the Abrahamic religions, which became very divided after 9/11. But it's 119 days after Putin's birthday. And then also in the headlines, there's the assassination of a terrorist leader on Biden's watch when Biden was the VP, when we supposedly assassinated Osama bin Laden, which was exactly a span of 119 weeks from Obama taking office. So there's these clear parallels. And then with you bringing up the plutonium, which factors into big bombs and weapons, it reminds us that on 9/11, they called the site Ground Zero, which before 9/11, the only definition for Ground Zero was the point above or below ground where an atomic, hydrogen, or nuclear bomb explodes. And then, of course, the World Trade Centers were turned to dust. And the project to develop those weapons was called the Manhattan Project. And, of course, the World Trade Centers were in Manhattan. So there's just all these parallels. But again, then you have to look and say, well, who is behind these rituals? And it's not hard to see who's behind these rituals. Buildings 1, 2, and 7 fell on 9/11. Pearl Harbor, which was also a false flag, happened on December 7th, 127. And again, when you write out Ground Zero, it equals 127 in gematria. This year on December 7th, 127, that was the day Biden and Putin met to discuss what was going on in Ukraine. And that happened to be 201 days after the first ever Ignatian year began, which is the number of the Jesuits, like how there were 2 World Trade Centers, then there was 0, then there was 1 World Trade Center. And again, it's symbolic about building their global one world order. You go look at any Jesuit university, they have quotes etched all over their building about how they're the driving force of globalization. Mm-hmm. So Logan, I appreciate what you're doing, and I think we should work together because I think a lot of the stuff you are doing is brilliant, and it's, you know, breaking new ground that other people haven't done. But my issue is, I know I have heard you say with your own mouth, it's not the Jesuits. There's too many moving pieces, and I know that that is incorrect. There are other entities, and you're right, there probably is something more demonic and a greater spiritual influence behind it. But unless we stop this cabal that's channeling that and bringing this evil to the world, I mean, where do we stand? Do we just sit here and what, witness it?
Right, but we're on top of us? On the contrary, neither you or I, whether we disagree or agree upon the end result, my channel is no different than yours. You're exposing the people in the front lines that are delivering the blueprint. I'm exposing the generals and chiefs behind the line that are directing the soldiers to go out into battle. That's kind of how I see it. And I think that, you know, a lot of people think, oh, you guys are both right. And so, you know, like, I'm going to clear the air. I'm not saying these people are not doing these things. That's not what I've never said. I just said there's something controlling the energies beyond the physicalities of man. And obviously that's theoretical, right? I can't prove that. I can't prove it. I cannot prove that. But I mean, you know, when you go look at like I know you're not a big fan of the cards, like, you know, you don't use them, but these two cards right here, the 4 and 7 of diamonds, are the two cards, that's the 47 or the 74, tied to the two bombings in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The 2 days on the calendar are these two cards. They're both diamonds, and it's the 4 and the 7, 47 or the 74. 74 is wolfram tungsten, which is kind of made what they use light bulbs and tungsten in the filaments, which is a relation to the sun. So there's a lot of sun worship going on in this reality. There's a lot of pledging to the sun and the moon, which is why the stock market and crypto and all this stuff is.
I agree. It is all about the sun and the moon.
Absolutely it is. And is that what's controlling this reality?
Call it coronavirus.
Of course.
It relates to an eclipse. That's why the vaccine went live in America the day of the eclipse in Pope Francis's country.
Right. So look, man, for time's sake, because I want to end this transmission, I appreciate your time. I have mad respect for you. If you want to join, I know people would love for this to happen, and I don't want to do it because I'm trying to get subscribers. I'm here because I want to deliver to the world, and I'm sure you are the same thing. You got a belly to feed. Yes, I get that. But the main agenda for me personally is to help people become better people in this reality, however that looks, right? And yours is doing what you got to do. If we can somehow join together and do maybe like a weekly show, and just like me and Jordan, we just, you know, I don't know if you know who Jordan is over Waters Above Crypto, but he talks, I talk. He talks, I talk. And we just did that today. We just did that tonight. If we can somehow come together and you can feed me your numbers, you're good at what you do, I have a different layer to observe to, but in the end we can just become tighter and tighter and tighter and maybe make more sense of how this code works. That's what I'm offering here. I don't know if there's something you'd have time for. I don't know what your day schedule looks like, but I would definitely be open to that.
I would like to do it. I need to finish my book, and so weekly might be tough right now, but I would be happy to do that, because
or once
I know
a month.
That with your observations like plutonium and Pluto, that can be very helpful. And I need to understand the astrology piece better than I do, and I realize you put more effort there. I will say this: I know the tarot cards are a huge part of it. You're going to have to persuade me that the playing cards are important.
Well, the playing cards came before the tarot, so just I don't know if you knew that.
There's 52 cards in the deck. Earth is 52. So, I mean, it's probably there. And Francis Bacon, the word game is 52 when you capitalize the G. So you're right. There probably is something there. But, yeah, we can do that. It's just, again, knowledge is power. And I see that you're more into this for like a knowledge and understanding the way the world works. My motivation for getting into this work was to stop an evil agenda that was clearly being waged in numbers. And when I first started, I knew it had something to do with Masons and Jesuits. But it's obvious. All roads do lead to Rome, and Rome is behind the heart of what's going on. It's why Italy was the most tormented country at the beginning of the pandemic. And again, Logan, I think the one thing that does bother me a bit about you is just your attitude on this, like, you know, the evil's going to take its course no matter what. I mean, I think that's the totally wrong attitude.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's your opinion. So I respect that. I just wholeheartedly, again, I mean, I don't know why you just can't let your, like what your beef is with me. Just let me do me and you do you. And it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Why does what I believe in just personally affect you? Why do you have a problem with that? What? Because I mean, I can clearly tell you my agenda for my entire life, since I can remember, has been about making people better, helping people, being a coach. I was certified in nutrition, teaching people weight loss, getting into the health and wellness. I went through a huge surge in personal development, entrepreneurship. I've studied all that stuff, and it's led me to this place in my life right now. I do weekly podcasts to help people. I don't get anything from it. I don't monetize my channel. That should speak loud and clear on what my agenda is. So if you have a personal vendetta against me because I believe something outside of what you believe in will do, that's your ego that needs to be put in check. That's your ego wanting to be right. If you just let that go and be like, okay, well, Logan's, if you want to just write me off as a crazy knucklehead, if that makes you feel better, then do that. But for the sake of...
It's not that, Logan. It's that I feel that people are complacent with evil. I feel like that's a symptom in humanity.
It is. It is a symptom. But I'm not certainly sitting on the sidelines, bro. I got 250 videos showing people how the machinations of this world works. And I tell people and encourage them, it's up to what you want to believe. If I spark a flame in somebody for them to go out there and fight the good fight, then I've done my job. And I know I have, because I get a lot of testimonials from people giving me credit, like, hey man, I'm a better person. That makes the world a better place. If everybody raised their frequency, it would just snuff out the bad stuff. That's how magic works. So if I make the world a better place, then I help snuff out the evil. I do my job. You do it in a different mannerism. There's many different ways to skin a cat, brother.
Okay. But Logan, okay. Can I call you? When's the best time to? Okay, here, if we're gonna do this weekly show,
we don't have to do weekly. We can probably better do like bi-weekly, because that's plenty of
bi-weekly.
That's probably better.
Day, what time works? What day? What time?
Well, I mean, if you wanted to do a live where we do, I don't know if do you want to do it live? Do you want to just do a recording through Zoom and then just?
I like to do things live, and we can do it on your channel. You got the better video production skills.
Well, I mean, if you're doing live, yeah, I mean, whatever. We'll figure it out. Let's chat about this maybe on Monday, because I'm inundated a little bit, and this was a very random last minute decision to come on here and do this. So I have your number, so I'll contact you probably maybe on Sunday or Monday, and we can attempt to come together in a week or something like that. Fair enough.
Okay, and I think maybe also what the goal should be is to create something like the Decoders Roundtable, and then it would be just more than you and I. We get other voices in the community. I have great
ideas for that, and so with your help and your decoders and kind of coming together, splitting it and cutting out all the division, I think that's a great idea. So,
okay, my goal will be to persuade you to help fight evil.
I'm already doing it, dude. Just not in the way you do it.
We have to agree what the source of the evil is. So.
All right. Well, we can.
Okay, Logan. Well, I appreciate it. Is today your birthday?
Tomorrow.
That's funny, because the first time I ever tuned into you, it was your birthday. So tomorrow's your birthday.
Yeah, well, that's right. That's right. It was. I was in San Miguel at the time, Central Mexico. That's right. I don't remember what number it was, but that's right. I remember it was on my birthday. So yeah. So here we are again. Another almost literally the same exact day, and here you are. Interesting.
Well, happy early birthday.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it, man. All right, man. All right, thanks for calling in, man. I appreciate you.
Yep. See you.
All right, see you. All right, there. So there you go.